So I am joined with my friends Jeff and Shree, and we're going to be talking about GuardDuty RDS protection findings. And what's really awesome and unique here is that we have a principal from GuardDuty, we have a principal from GuardDuty RDS protection, and you got me. I'm sorry about it. So Jeff, Shree, please introduce yourselves. Tell us what you do here, and then let's go ahead and talk about these features that we want to talk about today.
All right, Jeff, do you want to go first?
Oh, sure. So hi, I'm Jeff Bickford. I'm a member of the GuardDuty team, working on various projects as well as our machine learning detection algorithms, and excited to talk about today how we work together with the RDS team on delivering GuardDuty for RDS.
I'll go next. Hi, my name is Trey. I am part of Amazon RDS team. RDS stands for Relational Database Services. And I am a principal product manager here. And I was the product manager who worked on GuardDuty RDS protection, collaborating with the GuardDuty team. And I'm more than excited to talk about this feature today.
Awesome. Now, before we get started, for those that might not be necessarily familiar with GuardDuty or RDS, can we talk about what GuardDuty is, and can we also talk about what RDS is?
Sure, I can start maybe, Jeff, and feel free to add in as needed. So let me give you a background around GuardDuty, and Jeff can add to it. So as AWS customers grow in their cloud usage, they may be having multiple AWS accounts with thousands of resources. It's not easy to identify and assess anomaly behavior and security threats across multiple accounts. There could be networks and instances as well at this scale. So in order to solve that problem, Amazon launched GuardDuty in 2017. What GuardDuty is, it is a threat detection service that provides customers with an accurate and easy way to continuously monitor and protect their AWS accounts and resources. So that's about GuardDuty. Brief intro about GuardDuty. Jeff, anything you want to add before I move on to what is RDS?
Nope. I guess just one thing to add there too is that GuardDuty today continuously monitors various types of resources in your AWS environment. That could be EC2, EKS, S3, and today we're very excited to be talking about Amazon Aurora and how we're now protecting that environment as well.
Awesome. And GuardDuty uses CloudTrail VPC flow logs, Route 53 resolver logs. So CloudTrail being the who, what, where, when, and how to an AWS account. VPC flow logs being the traffic data in and out of a VPC. Route 53 being DNS resolver logs. So, if something is resolving a host name or domain. What were the other log sources that GuardDuty supports too?
Yep. So we also support S3 data plane events. So these are kind of the read and write calls to S3 in your environment. We also support EKS audit logs. And so people that are using EKS or container-based technologies, we monitor those kind of control plane events in the EKS infrastructure. And then now Shrey will kind of communicate the new RDS log events as well.
Awesome.
All right. So should I give a brief intro about RDS as well, Kyle?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that so we could kind of just, blend it all in a bowl together. And so everyone knows what we're talking about, whether they're new to AWS or they're well experienced with AWS. We want to be able to make this as approachable as possible. And sure. I think who better to talk about RDS and GuardDuty than you two?
I know, yeah. well, I'm from the RDS team, so Jeff knows much more about GuardDuty than me. All right, so I'll talk briefly about RDS, or Relational Database Services. So Amazon RDS, including Amazon Aurora, which I'll talk briefly about later, is a collection of managed services that makes it simple to set up, operate, and scale databases in cloud. So these are automatically managed databases that take care of mundane day-to-day tasks for our customers. These are tasks including provisioning a new databases, database, scaling up and down, taking care of backups and recovery, high availability and disaster recovery, and upgrade and patching. So basically, when you think about it, it takes care of all the jobs that you'll be doing manually on a conventional databases or scripting yourself. We automate that in RDS and Aurora. With RDS and Aurora, you have 7 flavors of database engines. We call these database engines. These are different flavors. These include Amazon Aurora with MySQL compatibility, Amazon Aurora with PostgreSQL compatibility. There is RDS MySQL, RDS MariaDB, RDS PostgreSQL, RDS Oracle, and RDS SQL Server. So that's about RDS. Anything else, Kyle, I should cover before I go to Aurora specifically?
No, I think what that boils down to, and I'm an individual of very simple things. I would say AWS is taking a lot of the heavy lifting of having to manage the underlying infrastructure. So myself as a database administrator, I can consume database as a service and not necessarily have to worry about the underlying infrastructure.
Thanks for simplifying it for me.
I'm like I said, I'm probably the most simple person out of 9,400 folks that are watching us. Thank you again for everyone joining us, by the way. Yeah.
That's
so someone asked, is RDS meant to replace 2FA, or you suggest using both? So one is a database service. Two-factor authentication is, well, multi-factor authentication, which could be done virtually or with a hard token. So 2 little different things there, but we can use MFA to protect our login as we want to administer our RDS database or our GuardDuty configurations.
Cool. All right. Should I move on to Aurora?
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
So as I said, Aurora, or there are 2 Aurora engines within Amazon relational database services. Aurora is our cloud native database engines, I would say, because it comes in 2 flavors, MySQL and PostgreSQL compatibility. It combines the speed and availability of high-end commercial databases like Oracle and SQL Server with simplicity and cost effectiveness of open source databases like MySQL, MariaDB, and PostgreSQL. It allows existing applications and tools to run without requiring modifications and offers a range of developer tools for building serverless and machine learning driven applications. It provides security, availability, and reliability of similar to commercial databases at 1/10 of the cost. So that's a very brief intro about Aurora. If there are any follow-up questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, and so these protections that we're going to be talking about today for GuardDuty is for RDS with Aurora for GuardDuty protections, right?
Yeah. So
now, what was?
Yeah, sorry. It is supporting Aurora engines, which is Aurora with MySQL compatibility and Aurora with PostgreSQL compatibility.
Okay. Now, what would you say was the opportunity that the 2 teams came together and you're like, hey, we should make these protections and findings for RDS protections. What was this that was going to be solved?
Sure. So let me talk briefly by giving you a background of my day-to-day job here at Amazon. So I'm part of RDS team at Amazon, and one of my key jobs is to add automation features to further reduce the need for customers to do anything manually and to lower the expertise bar needed. So this includes both performance and security. Around performance, we have released a few features over last few years, and this includes RDS Performance Insights, which is a monitoring and tuning feature of RDS. And we released DevOps Guru for RDS, which helps customers automatically find performance anomalies. We are thinking about the similar things around security as well. That how do we make it easy for customers to find problems automatically and to reduce the expertise bar needed to find these problems. So let's talk briefly about why security is important for databases. So as applications grow in size and sophistication, it becomes increasingly challenging for customers to detect and respond to database-related security issues. Giving you an example, identifying suspicious login attempts to databases is challenging for customers because it requires continuous monitoring and analysis of large volume of database logs. This problem becomes even more complex as customers' RDS and Aurora footprints scale to hundreds or thousands of databases. We wanted to make it easier for customers to get visibility into any kind of anomalous behavior and lock-in patterns, and that too without any database performance impact. And that's how GuardDuty RDS protection was born. The first thing that we are concentrating on in this GuardDuty RDS protection is finding suspicious logins. And the reason we are concentrating on logins to start with is because we feel that by looking at the initial point of login to your database and identifying threats there, we can help avoid any kind of threats to your data. Jeff, anything you want to add there?
Oh, that sounded good.
Now, you mentioned the new finding types, and it sounds like, existing finding types that GuardDuty has now is just like, unusual behavior and activity. What are the different finding types that we can discover for databases specifically?
Jeff, if you want to take.
Sure. So I can share kind of the finding types we're launching. So the finding types that we launched for GA kind of are in two different categories. One category are anomaly-based detections, which are machine learning-based detections. The way that those work is we look at the login events for a specific database in a customer environment, and we profile or we learn what's normal behavior, and then then we learn over time what's unusual. So we take these unusual events that could be different because of various reasons. Like it could be because there's an unusual user that we've never seen before, or unusual database that's been accessed, or unusual IP address that we've never observed. The machine learning model kind of utilizes all these different features to identify the most abnormal events, and we take those and we generate findings. And those findings today are grouped into three different categories. One we call is a successful login anomaly. And so this is when we see an unusual successful login event. So some entity actually successfully logged in. This could be because we've never seen that user before, or we've never seen, let's say, a customer accidentally keeps their database accessible to the public, and some a weird network or IP address or ASN has logged into that database that we've never observed before. So that's kind of an example of our successful logins. We've also observed situations where you have a database that's typically accessed only by programmatic applications. So these are, applications that are known and happening all the time. But then you might have some human login, and for databases that's interesting because you typically have some high bar for compliance. Humans are typically not supposed to log into these programmatically accessible applications. So these are kind of the situations we've seen for a successful login.
Okay.
We also have
Jeff, I'm going to go ahead and pause you there. So we have a couple questions from the chat. So right now, are there any plans to expanding finding types to anomalous IAM roles related to RDS?
That's a great question. So today, GuardDuty already monitors the CloudTrail events. And so we do have IAM-based findings related to RDS logs. So for example, if you have an anomalous creation of a database or anomalous API call to the RDS system through CloudTrail, we already have anomaly detection findings there. They would be under the IAM resource. And we're also collaborating with the RDS team on how we can combine these two visibilities together in a unique way now that we have these login anomaly events.
Awesome. And then I know this is a very common question that I've heard a lot, and I'm sure you can appreciate. You've probably heard this a lot too. Is it possible for distinguishing the difference between like a VPN connection? I know I've personally set off like IP-based findings or alerts just because Kyle's logged in on the West Coast and all of a sudden pops up on the East Coast because of a VPN connection.
Right. This is also a great question. And I think this is where we can talk a little bit about why we're utilizing machine learning instead of a more rule-based system. So you could imagine in an enterprise or a customer environment, you have people accessing your Amazon environment through different ways. That could be through your corporate network. That could be through VPNs. That could be through people's home networks if that's allowed as a corporate policy. And so the machine learning models that we have in GuardDuty are in collaboration with RDS team are able to kind of learn what's normal for that environment. So if a company typically has VPN access and that's allowed, we'll learn that that's normal behavior. If that's abnormal, let's say somebody is using a threat actor or some suspicious actor is using a VPN that's maybe more shady or could be something that's very far away or different than the corporate environment or the corporate VPN, that's when we can kind of detect those differences. Today, we don't necessarily, we're not able to tag, hey, this was a VPN, but we're actually working on different ways we can identify IP space or different ASN networks to help provide that context to customers. Because one thing that's not available today, but that's something that the GuardDuty team is working on as well.
No, thanks for explaining that. That I feel like could solve a lot of problems, especially since it's not rule-based and we're using more complexity behind it instead of just flagging everything that might come from a VPN, right? Especially in a more distributed work environment, right? So I know we're coming up on time, but we have a demonstration real quick that we want to show. So do the people want a demo? Do you want a demo? Are you ready to demo?
Yeah.
All right. With the magic of a button, here you are. Let's demo time.
Awesome. So demo time. So with this demo, I'm assuming for now that you are an existing GuardDuty customer. Okay. And I'll also talk about what would be the view if you are a new GuardDuty customer who has never enabled GuardDuty. So when you land onto GuardDuty, so this is the findings page where you don't see anything right now. On the left-hand side, when you see here, these are different protections that GuardDuty provides. There is a new one added here, which is RDS protection. So we go here, and you see here, there are two options here. One is that you can enable GuardDuty RDS protection for this account, okay, which is free trial for 30 days, which all customers get. Or you can enable it at the organization level, which means that all the accounts in your organization would be enabled at one time.
Okay.
Kyle, anything you want to add?
So for existing detectors, they need to go in and enable this feature, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I'll also talk about towards the end that, okay, what is the behavior when you're a new GuardDuty customer?
Okay.
So there is also an option here which says that auto enable RDS login activity monitoring for new member accounts as they join the organization. So once you click on this, then it would automatically start managing this. Okay. So I'll click on this, confirm. Boom, we are good. We are all set. Now what I'll do here is I'll go to settings here, and I will generate sample findings. Okay, this will help me see different finding types that GuardDuty is able to produce.
Didn't feel like making your own findings. So
well, that's a little bit more time consuming part. Well, I could have done. Maybe I should have taken help from Jeff on that.
next time.
Yeah, next time. All right, I'll go ahead and resource type and click on RDS DB instance here. Click apply. And there are a bunch of findings that are generated here. We'll click on one of the findings here. And if you see here, this starts by talking about title of the finding. In this case, this user successfully logged into RDS database with this database name from Tor exit node. Okay, and if needed, Jeff can explain you much better than me what does a Tor exit node mean. Jeff, do you want to quickly talk about it?
Just briefly, this is one of the new finding types we're launching at GA compared to preview, and we can kind of identify when a malicious IP address attempted to log into your database, or Tor is a proxy network typically used by threat actors to hide their IP addresses, and we have that threat intelligence in GuardDuty, and this is another way threat actors can communicate to your infrastructure, and this is the new type of finding for GA.
Now, these are using the same threat intel lists that other GuardDuty findings use, right?
Correct.
Proofpoint, CrowdStrike, and then our own AWS curated threat intel list, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So there is also an overview which just talks that, okay, severity, region, etc. It talks about the resources affected, where it tells that this is the DB instance identifier which is affected. What is the engine of it, engine version? This should be more of Aurora. This is a sample finding, so it's probably not talking about the engine specifically here. The ARN of the database instance, the database user detail as well, who logged in. And also it talks about the actor, that where did this come from, what IP address, what location, what organization. And then it also talks about the evidence that based on which we are able to say that this is actually a problem. Okay, so that's one of the things here. I can also click on another one, maybe real quick. This is the one that Jeff was initially talking about, which is unusual failed logins and unusual successful. There was successful login as well. So this is one of them. And it also talks about overview. What is the unusual behavior here? Then it talks about resources affected, and also talks about actions that you that were taken, and who are the actors here.
Okay.
Just one thing to mention here too is that for GA, in this section, you can now see what's called the historical behavior of the database. So when we have an anomaly, we share what's unusual, but we also share what's usual, or what's the historical behavior. So as a security analyst who's triaging these findings, we kind of give you the what we've observed as normal for the database, and why that unusual behavior is so different, to allow a security analyst to triage and understand why we generated a finding.
Awesome. And actually, speaking of findings, so we're going to be using Detective in just a moment to look over findings and the new feature of finding groups too. And sorry to cut it short, but it's been a pleasure talking with you two about these new protections, and thank you for explaining GuardDuty and RDS for those that are not familiar with those services. Again, this is something that you'll need to enable on existing detectors. Will new detectors automatically enable it?
What do you mean by new detector?
So like a brand new account, if you enable GuardDuty or
yes,
RDS protections.
Talk about it. So if you enable GuardDuty today, GuardDuty RDS protection will automatically be enabled with a 30-day trial. So you get a 30-day trial on your entire GuardDuty account. So what that means, GuardDuty RDS protection is also covered under that 30-day trial.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much for coming on and explaining these new features with us. Very exciting news because it's nice to see GuardDuty expanding its protections to the different services, especially the almost fully managed services where we might not necessarily have that insight unless if we're cognizant of bringing those logs to S3 or CloudWatch log groups and then introducing our own sort of alerting or monitoring. So I think this is a easy way for customers to be able to start with their security journey as they adopt new AWS services and modernize applications. All right.
Awesome.
Well, it was a pleasure. Thank you again.
Thanks for having us.
Why won't it let me add?